Minister of Business, Dominic Gaskin, and we'll be looking at the Ministry's achievements and challenges over the past 6 months. Minister, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Shivani, and to all your viewers, I'd like to wish or extend best wishes for the season. I don't know when the program is going to be aired, but I'd also like to wish you a productive and prosperous 2016.
Okay, Minister, starting with the new ministry, the Ministry of Business is a new ministry that has been established under the new administration. And I know that there have been some challenges with getting into office and understanding, the different dynamics of the system. So can you touch a little on the challenges before we actually go into the achievements that you have had?
Yes, we can. As you said, it was a new ministry created from an existing one. The departments themselves that form the ministry are not new, as are the subvention agencies which fall under us. Those are existing entities. But what I would say was challenging was working without clear policy. A lot of the activities that we did and the decisions that we were required right from day one would have benefited had there been clear policies in place, and these were not in place, within the ministry, and had not been in place. So a lot of what needed to be decided on did not come with a sound basis for decision making. So, in other words, the norm had a certain element of arbitrariness to it, and this was not something that we wanted to continue. So that was a bit of a challenge. The other challenges were, we spent almost 6 months without a dedicated permanent secretary, because the existing permanent secretary who had served the ministry before moved with the tourism half of the ministry, and even though he was available to us, he was not our PS, and that did have an impact on staffing issues and the general morale also in the ministry, because there was a sense of no one knew who to turn to. Also, we had no deputy permanent secretary also, so that aspect of it, was the administrative part of it, was a challenge for us. I do have to admit that. But we now have a new permanent secretary in place as of December 1st this year, and she has managed in a very short space of time to pull things together and to and has resolved some of the more vexing issues that have been affecting us for the last 6 months. So we're happy with that now, and I think we're starting the new year with most of our positions filled.
Okay. Minister, being the driving force behind this ministry, how would you describe your first 6 months in office?
Difficult, challenging, interesting, exciting, and frustrating also. A lot of I started with a lot of enthusiasm, and I still have a lot of enthusiasm for what we want to achieve. At the very beginning, I think it was clear that we needed some direction, and that direction had to come from me. So we needed very quickly to, I guess, define our goals, what we wanted to achieve in the ministry, and that took a little time, because I had to become fully familiar with all aspects of the ministry's work, as well as my own responsibilities. So it took a little time. I think it maybe took us about a month or so to define what our main goals were, and we narrowed those down to five goals that we would set ourselves for our 5-year term in office. Those goals, if you don't mind, I can elaborate a bit. First was to improve the ease of doing business in Guyana, because as you know, that is one of the major deterrents to investors here. There is a global doing business index that has become one of the lead indicators of the economic well-being, or the potential for successful investments, and therefore that's something that investors look to before they invest in your economy. And whether you like it or not, we must improve our ranking in that index if we want to attract investment. So that is one of the goals, to improve the ease of doing business. The second goal is to attract more foreign investment. I think that speaks for itself. An economy relies on foreign investments, foreign dollars, in order to expand, and so that's an imperative for us, and we have to find ways of attracting more foreign investments, making sure that, you know, we can't sit here and wait for investments to come to Guyana. We have to take steps to bring those investments to Guyana. It's not something we've been accustomed to doing. We have a state investment promotion agency that is set up to do just that, but has not traditionally been doing that over the years. So there's some transformation required there. I'm speaking about Go Invest. So it's a challenge again, but that is the second of our goals: increase foreign investment. The third is to increase exports and increase value-added production. That also has been spoken about for years, not achieved. Governments have for 50 years or more been lamenting the fact that we rely on primary products to bring in the bulk of our export earnings, and the drive towards value added has been attempted, and like I said, has been spoken about, but we don't seem to be getting there. For some reason, we are not attracting investments in value added sectors. So that is something that we need to one of the goals is to increase value added production and to increase our exports, or the exports of those value added products. The fourth goal that we set ourselves has to do with increasing opportunities for the most vulnerable. We're looking here at investment opportunities as well as job opportunities, and we're looking also at communities as well as individuals. So we want to extend the work of this ministry to all regions of Guyana, because as you know, we have become quite accepting over the years of the fact that you cross a certain line geographically, and the opportunities suddenly disappear. The standard of living suddenly deteriorates, and therefore our responsibility is not just to the people on the coast who who have traditionally been involved in business, but to those persons and communities a little further away that may not have always or not have benefited from access to business opportunities. So that is the fourth goal that we have set for ourselves. And finally, it comes the goal of making the ministry itself more relevant, increasing the influence that we have as a ministry over Guyana's economic development. So it's more of a capacity building goal. So those are the 5 goals that we set ourselves, and of course getting those or achieving those goals required a strategy to be put in place. So that was our next big task, is creating a strategic plan really to achieve those goals. And we set about this, I think, if I recall, at our first interview, I think I very glibly promised that we'd have that done by the end of the month or something like that. And that turned out to be a much more comprehensive and complicated task than we thought. And we did a first working draft, which we circulated for comments, because we wanted to consult with as many stakeholders as possible, because what we do obviously affects the not just our ministry but the entire country. It has nationwide implications, so we wanted that consultative process to be part of the development of our strategic plan. That actually resulted in a lot of input, which pointed us in a whole different direction, where we ended up having to seek technical assistance to really get the strategic plan drafted. So that was a bit of it was a challenge, because we had expected to be able in-house to develop our own strategic plan and start, working. So we had to then develop what we call a strategic action plan to take us through the period during which the real strategic plan was being developed. We ended up getting some technical assistance through UNDP, and they have hired a consultant. Now, everything takes time, because first of all, they needed to develop terms of reference, they needed to advertise, they needed to then select, and they've just in the final stages of selecting the consultant who will then prepare the strategic plan for us, which is now scheduled to be ready by May of this year. Now, I would just want to stress that even though we are pushing back the preparation of the strategic plan, or the finalization of the strategic plan, it in no way pushes back the achievement of our goals, because it just means that whatever the time frames are, it's going to end up being more or less a 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 plan. So instead of a 5-year plan, it's going to be a 4-year plan, but it still takes us up to 2020 and achieving the same goals and the same targets. So that was the second, I guess, big activity that we undertook. Coming almost concurrently with that, actually, was the finalization of the 2015 budget, our budget submissions, which were complicated because we were dealing with an old ministry and a new ministry. The old ministry's budget needed to be budgeted for for the period of January to August, and the new ministry needed to be budgeted for the period of September to December, when it actually, when we became, from a budgetary point of view, a ministry. Before that, we were still under the Ministry of Tourism, Industry and Commerce. So that was the other major challenge, or the major hurdle that we had to get across, and of course getting our budget approved and all of that. That was done. Immediately following that was the preparations for the 2016 budget, and that of course was a lot more involved a lot more work, because it required a lot more planning, because now we were planning for an entire year of activities, and of course these activities had to be all designed to achieve our 5 main goals. But that was done also, and we submitted our budget. We didn't meet the deadline, but we submitted it late, but I think we're satisfied that it was worth the extra time that we took to actually get it right. One of the, I think I'd raised it earlier on, one of the challenges that we faced very early was the lack of clear policy on so many issues for which decision making was required, and that led us to the conclusion that there was something missing in the ministry, and we gave it some thought, and we decided that what we needed was an additional unit, strategy and policy unit within the ministry that could handle ministry policy, develop ministry policy, identify policy deficiencies, legislative deficiencies, anything that needed to be tackled from the policy level, as well as strategies on achieving our goals. So we managed to get cabinet approval to set up this new unit, and we are currently in the process of setting up the unit. It's going to be a 6-person team. We have 2 persons in place already. We have to start the hiring process for the other 4. So that has kept us busy, and that's likely to kick in by the end of the first quarter of next year. And once that gets up and running, it is going to make us a much more effective ministry.
I know that there was a meeting with the diaspora with you and Minister Patterson and a few other ministers. Can you say what was the reaction from those businesses over there? Are they interested in coming to Guyana? How was the meeting?
The meetings went very well. The interest was very real, and it was very heartening to see, both within the diaspora, the level of interest in actually, coming and investing in Guyana. And it was, like I said, it was real. These were people who had real business proposals, who knew what they were about, who had business experience and expertise, and who didn't necessarily need to come to Guyana or invest in Guyana, but who wanted to, and who saw opportunities in Guyana that we ourselves had not seen. So that was a good experience from that point of view. We also met not just diaspora investors, we met mainstream Canadian investors also, many from the mining sector, and there too we were impressed by their knowledge. These are people who are not Guyanese, who've never been to Guyana, but by their knowledge of that particular sector in Guyana, business in Guyana, they knew what they were about. They knew what Guyana was about. They knew what they were interested in, what aspects of our economy interested them, and that was very eye-opening for us. Also, following up from those meetings, we have had some of those persons or businesses following up. Some are currently engaging with Go Invest on their proposals. Others are engaging with the Ministry of Public Infrastructure on infrastructure proposals, because many of the investments were in the infrastructure area. So that was it was a very positive experience, and like I said, it drove home the fact that, and especially at a time when our economy was not performing very well, that there's nevertheless confidence that there was still some amount of investor confidence in our economy. So that was very reassuring.
Okay. Minister, I know that the ministry has been pushing for small business development. That's something I see that you've been very passionate about. Can you say what are some of the plans that you have going forward, and also what are some of the achievements that you may have had within the last 6 months?
Well, going forward, I want to say first of all that leadership is very important, and we have a Small Business Act and a Small Business Bureau and a Small Business Council, which together form the basis of our ministry's small business policy and activities. We want to first of all ensure that both the council and the bureau have the right leadership to execute the functions of that of the bureau. So that is something that we will be working on early in the new year. In terms of what we've done over the last few months, there is an ongoing program. It's a LCDS funded project, which was designed to address the issue of access to finance in small and micro enterprises. It is a low carbon development project, which means that the funding is really available only for businesses that are well, yes, or the business must be something that is considered a low carbon project, really. So if you open a gas station or something like that, that's probably not going to be eligible for funding under this project. But nevertheless, it is tailored to micro and small enterprise development, and it involves three main components. One is a loan collateral guarantee, where the businesses can get a loan from the bank, and the fund will be used to guarantee a certain percentage of the collateral required. So instead of having to put up 100% of the guarantee, the businesses can now will only be required to put up 60% because the fund will guarantee 40%. So that is one of the measures that was designed to give small businesses easier access to financing. The second component was a loan interest subsidy, where the actual interest rate was subsidized. So a collateral guarantee as well as the interest subsidy, and with that, I believe the interest rates could have come down to as low as about 2%. So that was another component designed to make loan financing more accessible to small businesses. And finally, there was a grant component also. That was a maximum of $300,000, and those grants would be given to eligible small businesses. They were originally supposed to be for existing small and micro enterprises that wanted to expand. I think the criteria may have been adjusted, and it is now available to startups also. There were some problems with that project. It's not a new project. We inherited it. It began 2 years ago, and the project design may not have taken into consideration the true state of our micro and small enterprise sector. And what they found out, I think, fairly early, was that they were unable to disburse at the rate that they had originally planned, because the businesses themselves could not demonstrate or could not get loans from the bank, for instance, because they couldn't do things like create simple business plans and do cash flow projections and that sort of thing, record keeping and all of that. So a training component had to be added to the project, and that, I think, became the basis for the issuing of the grant funding, so that you had to do the training to get grant funding. So far, the disbursals are still fairly slow. There are still problems with capacity problems and eligibility problems, which we are trying to overcome. We have made some recommendations for some adjustments to the project, to the IDB, which is the project coordinating or supervising agency. So that's where we are with small business project. We've also recently had our business expo. That was also geared specifically to small businesses, to give them the exposure and to prepare them for next year's big Guy Expo, which we have promised we will hold during the independence celebrations. So that event was well attended by small businesses. It was unusual for them. It brought some mixed reactions, but by and large, I think the businesses that took part were fairly satisfied that this was finally an event where they were center stage. People who came there came to see what they had to offer, The interactions, engagements they had with persons were about their products and services and their business, and not just idle chit chat while dancing to music and eating food, and so for them it was different, and a lot of the engagements that they had actually did lead to follow-ups in which they did business after the event, which was very interesting for me to find out. And I was very happy to hear that, because I think that was the whole intention. When you go to a trade show, when you exhibit, it is not simply about going with a bag of goods and selling them all. It really is about developing relationships with future clients and business to business relationships. So the model itself, while not perfect, it was our first attempt, and we didn't get the crowds, we didn't get the 20,000 people, a night or whatever it was during Expo. But we certainly got the attention of the people who came in, and the businesses, I think, at least the ones that I had discussions with, and I did speak to quite a few of them during my walkabouts. But what was, like I said, what was more interesting for me wasn't the reaction during the event; it was what was reported after. And so from that point of view, I think the event was successful. So that was the other initiative that was directed to small businesses.
Coming out of the Business Expo also, there was this kind of Shark Tank approach where persons pitched a business idea, and I think one person won $500,000 to invest in their business. Can you say how you view this?
Well, I like it. I would like to see more of it. I think there was a lot of enthusiasm for it. It certainly generated interest. I sat through the entire selection process. There was 2 nights. The first night, I think there were 8 or 10 contestants, and then the second night there was a sort of a finals. I found some of the contestants to be actually quite good. I thought the quality of their presentations, certainly their own enthusiasm for what they were selling or pitching. It was good. It was entertaining, but it also drove home the fact that if you want to succeed in business, you have to be able to promote what you are doing. And I think it's something that I want to promote more of, because I think we need to understand that part of it. Very, very important. You could have the worst product, but if you can promote it better, you will do better in business.
Yes,
and I'm not advocating now that we place less emphasis on the quality of our products, but I am suggesting that we need to do a lot more work on how we promote Guyana, how we promote Guyanese businesses, how we promote our individual businesses. And I like the fact too that a lot of the contestants were young, and I like their ideas too. Some were more unusual than others. So all in all, I think it was that was a successful component of the event, and it is something that I would like to do more of. In fact, I plan very early in the new year to engage with some of the persons who had assisted us as judges to see if we can find a way of continuing that, or having that a program in place to do it on an ongoing basis. I have some ideas about that already.
Okay. Mr. Gaskin, before we go into the 2016 plans for the ministry, is there anything else that you want to touch on for 2015? Maybe some area that you want to highlight, or can we just move on?
We can move on. We can move on.
Minister, I know that this year was very short in terms of only 6 months in office, but with 2016 coming in a few days, I don't know what plans you may have for the ministry. I'm sure there's quite a lot, and if we can touch on some of that from your end.
Well, for us, the work doesn't stop and start again in 2016. So the truth of the matter is that on Monday morning when I come in here, I'm continuing from where I left off today. What will happen in 2016? First of all, once the budget is passed, we have a few projects that we inherited that we'd like to complete. One is the Lethem Industrial Estate, which has been, I think it started almost 10 years ago, and it's still incomplete, but we would like to complete it. However, we do have some concerns about the direction in which that project was heading. Some work was done in 2014, and a main access road was laid down with some drains and some culverts. The plan was that some more works would continue in a second phase, and then perhaps more works would continue in a third phase. Our concern was that what makes it an industrial estate? This is the year 2015. What we were doing in Lethem was simply taking the concept of the Eccles estate maybe, or the Collagen estate, and applying it to Lethem with no effort to maybe upgrade our concept of what an industrial estate should look like. And therefore we have modified the terms of reference for the contract for developing that estate to include some to how should I put it? It must be developed within the context of an industrial estate. We simply cannot take little components, a road, a fence, some culverts, a drain, and once we get enough of them up, we put up a gate and we call it an industrial estate. I think some more thinking needs to go into it, and even if the project gets delayed, it's been delayed for 10 years now. If we're going to conclude it, we would like to develop an industrial estate. And industrial estate has to be, it has to satisfy certain requirements. It has to be developed in a way that aligns with the national policy of the government. What is it that we want to produce there? And when we decide what we want to produce there, and when I say we, it is not we the government, but it is the local businesses in that region. But it has to follow some sort of strategic thinking. So it can't be that we just allocate all the spaces and then the next thing we know, people are doing things on those premises that the premises was not originally designed for. So we want to give it some serious thought so that when whatever is developed is an industrial estate and is managed like an industrial estate, and there must be some element of cost recovery associated with how we manage the estate, and with the it's not being developed as a charity. These are businesses that are going to be occupying those, that premises, and businesses by their very nature generate profits. Um, so, we want to see profitable, value-added businesses occupying the industrial estate. We want to see those businesses contributing towards the maintenance and upkeep of the estate, and of course to the treasury via taxes on the profits which they will make once they are set up and become productive in that facility.
Okay, Minister, if I may, the two plantain factories in Legon and Wakenham, also in the call center in Tushin, I know you visited them. Can you say what's the progress there, and if there's any modification needed, or are you just going to go ahead with the previous government's plan? Can you say a little on that?
I could say a lot on that. The plantain chip factories are continuing to give me grief. I've had the project reviewed because I thought it wise to do so. And we actually had to hire a consultant to examine, in detail all aspects of the project and to give us some recommendations on how to proceed. There are two, if we start with the plantain chip factories, there are two plantain chip factories, one on Leguan and one in Wakenham, and they are being developed to process plantains and make plantain chips. Beyond that, we don't know what is going to happen. So the construction is taking place. One building is complete, but there's no business plan for how those facilities become operational. So we have to figure out what is the best way to utilize them, because the equipment is already here. We have to pay for the equipment. Nothing about these projects is cheap. There are two major headaches we face in addition to having to figure out how to complete the project. One is that the factory that was constructed in Wakenham was constructed on land that is deemed to be unsafe by the Sea Defense Board. So where do we go from here? I mean, we have spent in excess of $40 million on this building, and now we find out that we can't really put people to work in there. So it is difficult to just abandon something. That's been done too often, but we don't have much of a choice. So we have discontinued work on that. We are focusing on at least on trying to get the Leguan factory completed, because it's actually completed, but we discover now that it's completed that there's no access road. There's no way you can drive a truck full of plantain into the facility. So that's a problem, because it's going to cost a pretty penny just to put down an access road to make that facility operational. But we're going to do that because we have no choice. We want to complete the project. We don't want to leave it hanging. Once we get it up and running, well, not once we get it up and running, before we get it up and running, we have to know exactly what we're going to, how we plan to treat it after. We have had some interest from the new Guyana Marketing Corporation. They actually paid a visit to the site, and they think that they can put it to work. In fact, they would like to. So that's a discussion that I have to have with the minister and his team. Apart from that, there are options. We could advertise it for expressions of interest. We could go to an existing producer and ask them if they want to expand into the area. There are a number of options, but we are going to complete it, and we are going to make sure that it develops into a profitable operation. The call centers, one is complete, and the other is works are still ongoing. The one that has been completed is the one in Tushin. So we are now at the stage where we're looking for an operator for that. So we have to work out what are our requirements. Again, it calls for some work which is already being done. We haven't fully developed our thoughts on this, because we had anticipated that there would be some we had advertised earlier for expressions of interest, but we didn't get a response. So we have to give it a rethink. But that also will somehow be put into operation. It's a fairly large facility. I think it accommodates up to 300 workers. And it's in a community where there definitely are, I think, enough persons to provide a workforce for whoever the operator is. So, I mean, that's the latest update on those projects. But we hope to have them all completed, up and running within the first half of next year.
Okay, finally, with regards to the Walkman factory, you said that the area is not fit for workers to be there. Is there any consideration, or will there be any consideration to actually move the building to a different facility?
There certainly has not been any consideration as yet to move the building. It's an interesting proposal. I mean, I don't have the technical expertise to say whether or not that's a good idea, but I can put it to someone who does. But we will seek some guidance on that, on what to do with it. But I rather suspect that when we try to, it will cost so much to do anything with that building that we might as well just cut our losses and leave it. But I don't want to make that decision without the benefit of some proper, technical advice.
Okay. Well, Minister Gaskin, thank you so much for the interview. Thank you for taking us through your year and your plans for the new ministry. And I hope we get to do this again soon in the new year. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
All the best for the new year.
Same to you.